Welcome to this channel. Today I like to share with you the effective and efficient way to study Chinese Kungfu, meditations or Qigong so that you can get result. Now, I have summed this for you so that as soon as you ask these questions, you will know that whether what you practice will be efficient, effective, and get result or not. So, in terms of combat, the key words you want to know is momentum. Okay, momentum is the key words you want to know. That is the bottom line of the combat or fighting. Fighting is simply a handling of momentum or the game playing with momentum. Now, when momentum is involved or when we go to learn a type of Kungfu or martial arts, we always want to ask what type of momentum is this Kungfu or this type of martial art proficient in. Okay, so what type and the handling proficiency. For example, if we go learn wrestling, then you know that the type of momentum is grappling, throwing, going down to the ground, rolling, all kinds of stuff. Those type of momentum. So that is the type of momentum we need to know, what we are learning. Now, the wrestling type of momentum is very different compared with the Western boxing type of momentum, where you're standing, very agile, you walk around and you're punching, you're striking. Okay, so that is the different type of momentum if you compare the wrestling and the Western boxing. Okay, now, and it involves, in order to handling the momentum, it involves the proficiency of handling, meaning one have to develop the proficiency of handling that type of momentum one is trained with. For example, the wrestling guy need to be proficient with handling the wrestling type of momentum. The Western boxing guy has to be proficient in handling Western boxing type of momentum, because that's what they train for. Okay? Now, when you met an opponent, when you do sparring, you ask the questions, do I know what type of momentum my opponent is good at or proficient at or proficient with? Do I know how to handle that type of momentum? Am I proficient to handle those type of momentum? Or I have never know what type of momentum and I have no idea how to handle it. In that case, you do not want to spar with that friend or opponent because you have no idea what momentum he is proficient with. And also, when you study something, you always want to ask, what am I trained to be proficient with? What type of momentum do I proficient with handling it? So it is never about this technique, that technique, that technique, but momentum. Okay? So in terms of fighting, that's it. Now, in terms of something called internal, like in Qigong, like in meditation, like internal power, those kind of stuff. The equivalent words like momentum in the for the fighting or for the combat is physiological state. So when you want to learn a meditations, you want to learn internal art or internal power or Qigong, the key word is physiological state. You want to know what type of physiological state are you get into when you're learning like the Qigong, the meditations or whatever internal art. What type of physiological state you ought to be able to get into, or what type of the physiological state are we talking about? The second is the proficiency of being able to handle that type of physiological state. Okay? For example, sleeping is a type of physiological state. Okay? Sleeping is a type of physiological state. So if one want to sleep, then one need to be able to enter into the sleeping state. So you ask the question, how proficient am I to get into that sleeping physiological state? That is about handling proficiency. Okay? So if one learns something like one want to quiet down one's mind, then that is entering into a physiological state. And one need to ask, when I study this Qigong, this meditation, this internal power, do I really have the proficiency to handling how to enter or how to exit into that particular physiological state, such as what type of physiological state you are learning? Say sleeping. Okay, sleeping. What type you know is sleeping? Handling proficiency. How good can you get into sleep and how good can you get up from sleep? That's what it is. And the third key here is scientific verifications. How do I know that I be able, or my training is effective and efficient for me to be able to enter or exit that particular physiological state? Okay, so for any meditations, for Qigong or internal art, whatever, ask these three questions. One need to be able to answer these three questions. Okay. Another example is, if I'm learning how to relax, there is the state of relaxing my physical body. Okay. So what type of physiological state? Is this a physiological state of relaxing my physical body? What skill do I learn so that I be able to be proficient on handling how to enter and exit that relax my physiological state? So that's what it is. And also, how can I scientifically verify that I really be able to do it? Okay, it's very important. So it's check and balance. You need to have a scientific verifications. Okay. Now, so let's get into the more details on this thing. Now, the proper states. Well, there are many proper physiological states. Okay, state here, I just use the short-term state. When I say state, mean physiological state. There are many physiological states. So in my book, the Wing Chun Inception, I have a H model here. there are many different type of physiological state. Okay? And that need to be clear, which state do we want to get in? And also that will have to have a process step one need to train in order to get into that state or get out from that state. Okay? And that is like there's an N1 process here, process step, where one follow the step, one will get into that state. Now, the third thing is scientific verifications or verification quantity. In this case, and as in the Wing Chun Inceptions for the nurture chi state, it is the heart rate and heart rate variability, which is the verification quantity used for determine whether or monitor whether one can enter into the state and how well one can stay within that state. Okay? So remember this. If you want to study traditional Chinese Kungfu, meditations or Qigong, it has to obey this rule. If these questions cannot be answered, that means one really don't know what one is doing. See, for example, the state of drinking coffee so that I be able to be more alert and I go to sleep is a two different type of state, right? And that's why we need to know the proper state. Which state are you talking about? Which state you want to enter into? And the process step of drinking coffee and go to sleep is a different process steps. The verification quantity of the drinking coffee and sleeping, you can check it with heart rate, right? Where you awake and alert your heart rate. When you get the caffeine on the coffee, your heart rate will be in one different state, and if you sleep, get to the deep sleep, then your heart rate is on different type of state. So you can verify it scientifically. That's why in the Wing Chun Inception, even though it's called Wing Chun Inception, this is actually the bottom line of Chinese Kungfu meditation and Qigong mapped into the science. Okay, so all these things need to be really clear if one want to develop something or get result from what one practice. So this is to share with you today.